I can hear you at least.
Hi, look at that! Look what happened. I flipped it.
Can you see me? I swear I
I
can't
see
see you
you.
though. Okay, well as long as I can hear you.
You can't see me?
No, I don't know why.
Okay, that's my dog. Just wait a sec. So, camera's off, camera's on. No, stop. I can see me and I can see you. I feel like this is Romper Room. I see Robert. I see Ellie.
That's so strange. Why can't I
It's
see you?
very
Anyway,
strange. Like, so we've been trying to get on this call since, or whatever you want to call
the
it,
last
since
20
1 o'clock.
minutes.
22 minutes and limited success right now.
That's okay. As long as we are here, and I mean, people have your handle, my handle, so
I mean,
looks like
we're
a couple.
here and we have things to talk about, so it really doesn't. I mean, people could show up or not.
Yeah,
We need
and
to
they can
talk
watch it
about,
anytime. They can watch us anytime.
and we haven't had a meeting in a little bit about the workshop, so we're gonna do
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, exactly. So why don't we? There's a couple of people watching, so why don't we
Who's
talk a little
watching?
bit
Do we know
about?
who's watching? Can we say hi?
Uh, for some reason, I can't on my end, but
Oh,
maybe on your
I
end.
want to know.
I haven't
I
done.
want to know like who's there. Who's like, let's see. Nope, doesn't show me.
Okay,
I want to
strange.
see like I want to do one where like there's comments and you can see
Yeah, well, they can
everybody.
leave. Yeah, people can leave comments. I mean, usually you can see. See, I haven't done Instagram Live in about 5 years. Like when COVID hit, I remember I did a few,
And
and
COVID
I don't
hit.
know. Yeah.
Love that. Um,
So
so you were doing Instagram, you were doing live when COVID hit.
yeah, yeah, a couple of times,
I'm glad it
and
stopped
I don't know. I
hitting.
remember this being a lot easier then. I mean, maybe it's Musk. I don't know. Probably
Life was
or not.
easier then.
Yeah,
Life just keeps getting tougher.
yeah. Or Zuckerberg or I don't know. I mean, this I remember this being easier, but if anyone's watching, they can always. I don't know why we can't see who's watching. I could just see the number of people watching for now, but they
Okay.
can always leave a comment, and
Why can
then
you see it and I can't when it's my live?
I I don't know. That's really strange. Uh, send
I
a
turn
question.
off commenting, add moderator, turn off request to go live, turn off questions. Well, I'm not doing any of that, but it doesn't say, this is who's here and anything.
Can you see that? I just said a hi. I just put a hi in. Did you see
No,
that?
sir, I did
That's really
not.
strange. Okay. Well, hopefully, if
So,
people
so
leave
you're the
questions,
guy. So you can't see names, but you can see how many people and you can write things.
yeah, at the bottom where it says add a comment. So I'll do that. Just so, do you see that? The hi?
Oh, yes, see it.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Well, as long
If
as you
you're
can see that.
here, yes.
Sorry, what was that?
What was that? If you're here, not you, but them,
Right.
um, just say hi. Just say hi. Anyway,
Just leave a comment. Yeah, just leave a comment. Or if you have a question, just put it in the comment box.
yeah, yeah, and we'll answer it. We're just here. We're just gonna be here for a little bit. I'm Kelly, that's Robert.
Yes. I feel like that was my cue to say hi.
He already did in the
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah. It's already there, so I'm good.
Number
Uh,
one, number one requirement skill as an actor. Go.
yeah. Yeah. Slate
No,
now.
seriously. Like, what's the number one? What would if you had to choose
Oh,
one thing? What would it be?
that's a good question. Number
That's
one.
my dog choking. By the way, if anybody's wondering, I don't have a goose in the room. He's got something. Anyway, he'll be fine. So don't worry about it if you hear that. I'm just trying to buy you time to answer the
Oh,
question. Answer the
perfect. Good.
question, Robert.
Number
Just any
one.
random one, and we'll discuss it. What do you think?
I mean, number one thing an actor needs is, I would say, training, because you gotta have some you gotta have some sort of technique or toolbox when you go in there to know what you're doing, or at least somewhat know what you're doing. So I think I think some sense of confidence or some ability that you've broken down the script and you've gone in there and you're going to commit to the action, some kind of that sort of game plan, um, that's going to bring your confidence way up. So I mean, for me, you got to know what you're doing. You got to know the craft. So that to me would be
Okay.
essential.
I
Yeah.
mean, very strategic answer, I would say. Seeing as we are running a workshop, holding a workshop for 7 actors on, sorry, he's just on March 2nd.
Right.
So number one thing an actor needs is training. That's your answer, and how convenient that we happen to be
Yes.
providing that.
Yeah. That was a sales pitch, I guess. What's your take on that?
My take on that is, do I think that anyone could just sort of, be handed a script, uh, be able to learn the lines for some reason, just look at them, whatever, and go and play and be somehow compelling and alive in the text? Like I do, I do think that. Um, but I think that's it's kind of a lucky. That's like a little bit of luck, right? Because there's some things that let's say you can memorize and read and all those sorts of things, but to be able to speak that text into life, um, to be able to understand like what you're there to do in terms of the story, and what you're there to do in terms of the other characters. Um, yeah, I mean, you have to have an idea of what it's about. Now, I think that nowadays we're just big consumers, right? We just like of we consume streaming content all the time. And there's so disturbing. There's no real mystery um about filmmaking, about what an actor does. You could look it up, you could, Google your favorite actors and listen to them talk probably for hours. They've been interviewed a million times.
Yeah.
You can read all the books. Like, I guess that's a little bit of training. Like that is some form of training, right? Watching, observing, learning in some capacity.
Right.
But without some specificity in terms of how you dial in, how you
Hmm.
connect with the material, and how you access what it is you need for any given moment, for that scene, for that story. um that's a focus and a skill and a craft that you acquire from doing the work, from the training. So I would agree, but that's like my roundabout way. Like, could somebody just do it? That's for the people out there going, come on, not everybody needs training. I'm like, no, I hear you, right? I hear you. You could just like step in and play, and it might be fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you do that on set? Can you do that in a wide? Can you do that in medium? Can you do it in your close up at 2 a.m.? Like, can you do all that? All right, well then, you know what, like, more power to you.
Right.
You don't need
I,
us.
yeah. Yeah. I'm always very interested in the actors who are really good, but didn't necessarily have much formal training.
Who, what's
Uh,
his name? Russell
Russell
Crowe.
Crowe.
Doesn't even
It's
know
so
who
funny.
Stanislavski is,
Yeah.
right? He was like, I don't know who's that guy. Like, sure. I'm sure he did some training. He just doesn't know who the
Yeah.
who the legends are, right? But that doesn't matter. Like, you
No.
don't need to have learned from Stanislavski or from Uta Hagen. Like,
Right.
you can do the work of the actor,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Yeah.
based on your own capacity, which we'll get to, um, you know, do the thing.
Yeah.
But I would say that the number I'm gonna here's one we can discuss. I would say this dog, hey,
I
is it
can't. I
really?
can't even hear. I can't even hear the dog. So I think you're okay.
That's what I'm hearing
Oh,
constantly.
I don't
Um,
hear it. I don't hear him. The dog.
so here's mine. Here's mine. if it was just off the top of my head, because this is what I was thinking when I asked it, and I hadn't preloaded this question. I just, for some reason, I just felt like asking it. So if you believe that, then I was going to say know thyself. That
Mm,
was the first thing I thought of, and that's probably because of my own journey with it. But I think it's essential that
mm,
you know, like that all that bag of tricks and all that stuff, like that you are able to access what's in you, or it, like
yeah.
to not stand in fear of knowing yourself. Because when people say to me, I used to really, it used to bother me because I never admitted that I was an actor. I started when I was like a kid, right? And I peaked too soon, and then I kind of had my own little rebellion, and then a little bit of stage fright. They say child actors can sometimes get some stage fright later. I had all the stuff, and I was a parent, and I didn't, I found that my energy was split, and kids were more important, all those sorts of things. But and that's what I believed. Not necessarily saying that was true, but um, I think it was Meryl Streep. I've said this to my students. Meryl Streep, when asked how does she do it, said anybody can do it.
Mm,
And there's two ways of looking at that. Um, Anyone can do it because it's all in you. And the way I
right,
describe it to my students is um, it depends where your blocks are. And it
right.
depends how willing you are to move them out of the way.
Mm,
And
mm,
Meryl Streep is a faucet. She's just a faucet.
yeah,
There's no clogged arteries there. There's no calcium deposits. There's nothing in the way. She doesn't get in the way.
right,
And so anyone can do it because we're all made of all that stuff. But not
right.
everybody can do it because not everyone's willing to do it, wants to do it, has the desire to do it, or the real desire to do it, which is like sometimes that's tough, pulling that
Yeah,
out, moving that away. So that's where it's like, know thyself,
yeah,
or
yeah. I
not standing
agree.
in fear of that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I just elaborate on that point.
Is this just you and
Know
me?
thyself.
Is this just between you and me?
No, because people are watching.
How many people are watching?
There's a there has
Maybe
been a few
don't
people
tell
kind
us.
of going in and out.
Ah,
Yeah, and again, comment in the comment box, leave a question or just say hi and let us know that you're
yeah.
watching. But yeah, we're here to
Well,
answer any questions about our upcoming workshop.
we'll
But
read it. We'll discuss
yeah,
it. We'll break it down.
yeah,
And when you get bored, just look at my coughing dog. There you go.
there you go.
See, so we'll just try to keep it interesting for you. We'll
Yeah,
cut to the dog. We'll cut to some nice scenic shots, right? We'll just
there you go.
we'll just keep it moving for you.
We'll do
We'll
our
do
best.
our best.
But I like what you were saying, and just to because Bill Esper, who taught Meisner technique for like up until he died 6 years ago, for since the '60s, he was saying it's interesting because actors are always told to be themselves, and which then he said begs the question of, well, who am I? Because often, as Kelly, in life, we act in different ways in order to survive. What Brando called a survival mechanism, acting as a survival mechanism. So you have to act a certain way in a job interview. You might want to act a certain way on a date or a different way with your parents, and so all of these things are like constructions and learned behavior and stuff. And so how do you really be yourself? And so that's like, being able to follow your instinct. And because so in life, we're always taught, don't follow your instinct because this might happen, that might happen, that might happen, all these consequences. So then how do you then, as an adult, or if you're lucky enough as a kid to start, how do you then now follow those instincts when you've often been told to not follow them?
Right.
So
We're
that's a
we're
very interesting thing.
conditioned. We're conditioned to behave.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And one of the
Exactly.
things I tell my students is acting is behaving, but not like be a good girl. Like it's behaving, right? Everything I'm doing right now is behavior, right? It's telling you
Mhm.
something about me, right? You learn something about Kelly based on the way I behave. And you want to, and you know, we pay billions of dollars, but millions of dollars to watch people behave, usually badly, because we're not allowed to, right? You can't walk
Right.
around, not everybody's going to be a cancer stricken chemistry teacher who decides to make meth. So, but this is where we get to do it. And it's interesting because what I also wanted to say about the know thyself thing is one of the reasons why I didn't want to tell anyone I was an actor when I was younger, is I really couldn't I couldn't figure out why like I wanted to do it, because I started as a child actor. But it also really didn't sit with me when people would say, "Oh, actors, they want to be somebody else." And I always felt like I don't want to be somebody else. So maybe I don't want to be an actor.
Mm.
And it took me years for some reason to figure out, and it's partly that Meryl Streep thing that I told you, acting is using all of yourself. I want to
Right.
use all of myself. Like that's how I've seen how I live my life. You don't have to live your life that way to be an actor, but that's that's the thing for me is I want to use all of myself. So I don't feel like I'm someone else. I'm like I'm this part of myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. And I know that you went to AMDA.
And
Now,
no,
what,
I went to ADA. I went to the American
sorry,
Academy of
what am I
Dramatic
saying?
Arts.
That's what I, for
No
I got
problem.
I put
I
an
could
M in
have.
there for some reason. But
Yeah,
did they,
I was a singer dancer, but I ended up I had no plans to go. But
I see,
I just
okay,
ended up in New York for a weekend and I auditioned and the rest is sad history, but whatever.
I see. And now, did they have a specific approach there? Did they focus on a variation of Stanislavski, whether it was Adler, Hagen, Meisner, Strasberg, or what was this training like there?
Back then, I believe we did a bit of everything. I don't remember any Meisner, and I'm a Meisner, like you and I are Meisner monsters, you know? So
I like that.
yeah. So I don't remember doing that because it really would have stayed with me even then. I found that actually from reading Meisner and then also from studying with somebody in Toronto who was doing it, who was very good, John Riven.
Oh,
So
right, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean it was a bit of everything, but I didn't need theater school. Like I had been a child actor and I did much better with, one-on-one coaching. Theater school kind of put me right up in my head. And yeah, that's not what I needed. And
Mm,
I wasn't aware of myself enough back then to know, because I was, young. I didn't know. I thought I'm just supposed to do this. Like, why can't I do this? And it was like I just felt like I was constantly being told don't think, but I wasn't thinking through things before. Like I just remember constantly going, why aren't I just playing? Why aren't I just doing? And I was like,
right.
cause like I'm just constantly thinking the pressure of that school environment, which I've never enjoyed. Like it
Mm,
just didn't work for me. It
right.
didn't work for me. But a lot of people totally excelled there. I mean, I did well. It's just not what I needed. But I think it's good to have a well-rounded experience if you're going to go into that sort of training, theater school or film school, any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to give my
No,
dog medicine. Hold on.
yeah, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I can hold the fort for
I'm done.
now.
I'm done. I did
Oh,
it.
okay.
I
Wow,
did
that
it.
was quick.
It was so quick.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I because you hear a lot about that at schools, and when it's like, because I went to George Brown Theater School only for which they still have, which is a good 1 year program for people who are very interested in the arts but don't necessarily know which avenue they want to go down
Yeah.
yet or whether they want to do it at all. And they also, maybe the school has changed since then, but they also sort of touched on different approaches. And I hear that about a lot of schools. And, just from, I can only speak from my own experience of like studying like 98% of the Meisner technique approach is like that alone takes 2 years to learn. So touching on Adler, this, that, and the other, I would imagine that would just put actors in their head because some of those
They did.
approaches contradict with one another. So
Yeah.
how can you be fully taught in one in one in any of these approaches if you're just touching on things? I mean, it could work, but I just don't think it would necessarily have that a really good focus. I don't know if you have any feelings about that.
I do. I mean, but I think it's like education of any kind, right? It's different for everybody. And that's a bit, again, know thyself, like what works for you. Like it's not like do it like this, but every class I felt was like, okay, this class we write, these things, and this class we do this, and that didn't work for me. I needed more of an organic kind of playful process. Um, I felt like I was learning how to, sort of write about being an actor in a way, like making notes and stuff. But I think that's why now when I work with actors and, I think it depends if you're new starting out. Like I've learned some things about actors that like with no experience and that those that have a lot of experience and sort of like the whole scope of it. Um, I think that maybe there are some steps you need to take before you really accelerate into being able to like engage in the scene with like full objective and stuff. Like I'm a big one for like, what are you here to do?
Right.
My answer is all over the place, but I guess like that's it would needed to be more organic for me. I didn't feel like I really understood like what I was there to do. That those coins weren't dropping, and so I'm all about like what's your action? What are you here to
Yeah.
do? And then just do that,
Yeah.
right? And most people they can't choose just like one thing to do,
I know.
and they don't
Yeah.
want to stay with it anyway. It's like Meisner, right? You've got that one thing, but everybody wants to change it right away. And it's like it's
Right.
not about that. It's about this,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's yeah. So when
And
I
I think
found Meisner as opposed to the theater school, even though New York was great, but when I found Meisner, I really, yeah, that was more fun for me.
yeah, yeah, I know, I agree, and I think sometimes when you ask actors, what's the objective, I can understand why sometimes they will say that in like a short paragraph,
Yeah,
and
no,
it's
they
because
tell you the story.
yeah, yeah, well, which I understand, not to criticize anyone because I've done it, I do it too, and it's the fear of being wrong,
Yeah.
and so if I say more things, then maybe it'll sound better,
Well,
but
and it's also
you can't.
saying this is what I know about the scene. And it's
True,
like, well,
true.
that's great. Like you know the scene. You know the
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Just tell me what you're here to do. Because we're not even going to shoot in sequence, right? We're going to shoot the last scene of the movie on this day, and we're going to shoot the first one the next day, and it's just going to
Hmm.
be scene by
Hmm.
scene. So in fact, it's a lot simpler than you think. Just what's the scene about, and what are you there to do? Know the story. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I remember one of my teachers, Tony Pierce here in Toronto. He retired in 2010, but he was a Meisner guy, and he would say he would make us say our objectives in one sentence. I want my girlfriend or my boyfriend to do blank.
Mhm.
And that helped. That was such a help, and I do that all the time.
Huge.
I'm like, put it in
Yes.
one sentence, and if you
Yeah.
can't, then keep digging.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
try them
because
on.
otherwise,
Or try them on and see if it works.
right?
Like, some people are like, oh, I don't know if it might be this one, it might be that, it might be whatever. And I'm like, choose one, see if it works. And if that's
Yeah,
not the one, guess what? Choose another one.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
but that's also
absolutely.
great practice because you're just trying different objectives. It doesn't matter, unless it's on the day, really,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Otherwise, what are we here to do? We're here to play and discover like, what happens to me when my objective is this in this situation? What happens to me? Who shows up? Then you're you. Then you're you in the role.
Exactly. Yeah. And now once now because I know your experience may be different because you started as a kid and then you went to school and you maybe stopped for a while when came and went. So but do you like looking back on perhaps a time when you felt you had a better handle on your craft? did did you notice differences when you went to a start to auditions, or did you do something? Did you consciously make sure you always do things in
Yeah.
auditions?
Yeah, I feel like I've been through it all because, I started when I was 7.
Right,
And so I've had all the things. I've had stage fright. I've gone in unprepared. I've gone in
right,
terrified.
right, right.
I've been locked into a way of doing it. I've fear was driving the bus for a while, being not fully committed, but telling myself I was. What else? Like, yeah, totally rejecting it for a while.
Happens to all of us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I look at it like I've been in about a 48-year marriage with this career. It's like
Right.
the longest relationship of my life. And we've had some falling outs. We've definitely had some falling outs, but we're still here. So,
Right, right.
um, but yeah, I don't know. What was your question?
Like is there something
There's
that
something I do
you
now.
okay,
So two things happened. One is through a course of events in the journey of my life, and how you live your life is also a great determination of how you will be as an actor, right? How you will be able to be as an actor. There's lots of things that you need to like really protect if this is the career that you want, protect about yourself and your life and your creativity and all of that. So life is really going to trip it up. But all of a sudden, after, uh, so much life, I started to play differently.
mm,
I started to, I just kind of went, oh, fuck, I know what I'm doing. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna play. And I always used to hear, look, when you don't care, it's better. Like when you don't care, you'll book the role. And then you try to tell yourself, I don't care. And then you do it, and your brain's like, you fucking care.
of
So,
course, of
but
course.
I stopped caring. Like I actually stopped caring about like what are they going to think, what is like whatever, and I went, oh my god, there it is. It was there the whole time, Scarecrow. Like it was there the whole time. And I've learned how to help other people find that
Mm, that's good.
because I've had so many I've been through so much with this little marriage of mine. So I get it, and then I sort of developed. Then I was able to develop, this is what I do when I know I need the focus and the structure, right? Sometimes you don't, and we can talk about this in our workshop. We don't want to give away all the gold. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you do, right?
Right.
And when you do, that's when the craft steps in. This is another thing about Meryl Streep. I always said to everybody, like, she's in, sure, but she's not a robot. Like she's a human being.
Mm,
She's out, she might be out for a split second, a dog barks over there, or, like she thinks about her kid for a second. She blinks, right? Like but the edit's going to help with that. So she's not in like every
yeah,
single second,
yeah,
but
that's
she's
exactly it.
but she's present all like she's there. She's there. The editing does the rest. It's still movie
Right,
magic. There's still
right, right.
people helping us, right? So,
Mm,
so yeah, it's just about that. The craft is what she uses, the skill, the craft. She's so damn good, and she's got it down so brilliantly that you just don't. It's seamless. You don't see
yeah,
it. It's either the edit or that's when the schmacting. I call it schmacting. She's being, and then there's a little schmacked, but you would never know the
right,
difference because
right.
she's Meryl Streep, and we can all do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up because Dustin Hoffman told a great story because he comes from theater and actor, and I know myself coming from theater, actors who come from theater because you start when the curtain goes up and you cannot stop. So if you stop, then something's gonna go it might really go wrong, whereas in film you can stop and it's not a big deal. You could just pick up where you are. But he was saying, theater actors, we're so trained to keep going that if we stop, we think, oh God, on
Everyone's
film.
gonna think I'm a
Yeah,
faker.
exactly. And he said it wasn't until he worked with De Niro on a film called Sleepers, which is not very well known. Have you ever seen
No,
Sleepers?
I've
Really
heard of
good.
it. I know it. I've passed it and I've scrolled
Yeah,
beyond.
it's really good, and he's a lawyer, and De Niro is a priest, and they just have I think one scene or two scenes together in it, and he's in the courtroom and he's questioning De Niro's character, and he said at one point De Niro stopped because he forgot his lines, and he just chuckled a bit, and he had the lines like off camera, and he just looked, and he's just okay, and he just
Yeah.
picked it up and continued. And
Yeah.
he was like, wow, what a lesson, like, oh yeah, we don't have to like be perfect, we could just stop and go back. I mean, they can cut away, right? But
And
we forget those
we
things.
do. And the other thing I think that happened to me was um when I started to play differently, freer, um, truthfully, completely, I realized if I'm not having fun, no matter how hard the role is, no matter how, like, I mean, it's still fun, right? If I'm not having fun, I shouldn't be here. Like, I don't want to do it. Why would I be doing it?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
it
true.
can be it can be a heart wrenching role, but that should be fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. I know I'm quoting Meisner up and down, but something he said that I don't think is just a theory because started studying Meisner technique in 2006. So
I
we're
think I
almost at the
was
20.
around, yeah, I was around there, I think.
Yeah, so I'm at like I was acting before, but I mean from that training. So
Yeah.
I'm nearly at the 20-year mark, and he said it takes. You probably heard this. He said it takes 20 years to be an actor,
Yeah.
and he didn't necessarily mean that means that you're so much better after 20 years than you were 18 years before. He was saying that after 20 years, you don't really think about it anymore. Just like a violin player
Yeah.
or a guitar player, they don't like make sure that their fingers are perfectly placed before they play. They just pick it up and they don't even have to look and they don't
Yeah.
even have to think. It's just like so part of them. And I think he's right from my experience. Because I had an audition yesterday for a play, and I have so much fun now. I like, and I really didn't at first because all the things
Mhm.
you said, so much anxiety, so many doubts, feeling that I had to do
Yeah.
like come in there with like crying before doing all this like deep
I know. Beat yourself in the
preparation.
head.
Yeah,
Oh, gotta
exactly.
get there.
Yeah, we've all done it, and now I just like, and I realize like I'm not necessarily that much better than I was in 2008 or nine, but I just like I don't really worry about it. Like I'm like I have instincts,
Which makes it better.
and
Which makes it
yeah,
better.
and I'll just follow my instincts, and I don't know what they're gonna think, and I can't control what they think. So there's nothing I can do about it other
And
than
I
to
think
commit to it.
yeah, you
So yeah, and yeah, and I have a ball now. Even if it's just for 2 minutes, right? It's like I'll just go in and have fun, and what they can take it or leave it. That's my attitude now.
yeah, and I guess, that kind of confidence with it or whatever, that maybe some people start with all of that. I didn't, and I had been doing it forever. Like I was, and then I lost it. And then I found it, but not quite, like so. But the fun, there was something you said. Oh, there's something you said, and then I forgot. I should have written it down.
Oh, what
Um,
was it roughly about?
it was something you were just saying, and I was like, yes, I know that. Oh, I know. Um, the whole thing about know thyself or bring yourself to the role, like that didn't even really compute with me for, in my 20s or whatever. Like I was still trying to do what I thought they
Right.
would want. I was
Mm.
I thought I'll just do that really well. Like I'll
Yeah.
just I'll
Yeah.
just give them what they want really, really well.
Right.
And then my flip, my switch was no, this is what I know it to be. And
Right.
if you don't like this, you're gonna go, but look at what she can do, but maybe not for this role or whatever, right? Like that's the difference maker. And quite honestly, I wasn't booking a lot of stuff. Like when my kids were little, I did like 100 commercials. I did almost as many voice things. I was doing like short films, and I was doing, I was doing live stuff, trade shows. Like I wasn't like not working, but
Right.
it was still drips and drabs. Like I didn't have a lead on a series. That wasn't me. Like it took a while for me to earn that in myself.
Mm. Mm.
It took a
And
while.
I imagine when you say you uh were just trying to do what you thought they wanted, I imagine, because is from my experience and hearing other people, is like, well, whatever the breakdown says about this person, I'll just try to be. Is that what you mean when you say that?
Yeah, I'd kind of fit into like what are the puzzle pieces of that as opposed to um and now how do I feel?
Right.
You know, like like for example, it's my job to show what it feels like,
Mm.
right?
Good point.
So how can I show what it feels like if I'm trying to do what you think it would feel like?
Right.
So
Right.
this is what it feels like. I'm a single mom. I'm walking into the courtroom. My ex is like going to take the kids. I have no money. He's a rich, CEO, like whatever, and this is the day and it all comes down and like, I have to know
Yeah.
that's me to say this is what I think I believe this feels like. Like I'm going to
Exactly.
show
Yeah.
you what this feels like, right? And there's all like the things that you could imagine, but then you have to experience it. You got to like let you come out through that, through the heart, pull it out, and then it's your performance.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's ultimately it's an interpretive art form, not necessarily from the mind. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, there are some thinking involved, but it's a different kind of thinking than intellectual thinking.
yeah,
But obviously, you discover things from doing it. But just like Sinatra was a great interpretive artist. I mean, he was a good actor too, but from singing,
mhm,
he didn't write the songs, but he puts his interpretation of his feelings into
yeah,
that, like any great singer does
yeah.
as well. So yeah, no, I'm always fascinated by people's journeys, and I think that's probably why we were interested in um, people already on the road, because this workshop is obviously about auditioning, and so uh, people, I imagine, coming is because they're doing that, and maybe they need help with it, or they're just curious to see what our take is on helping them. But can you talk a little bit about, I mean, just what you specifically want to help people with beyond auditioning? Is there something you just hope people will take from the 1 day workshop?
So physicality as a tool, like connecting the body to your work, right? Like not having everything happen from the neck up, like that you're alive, that all the senses are how we're present. So a little bit of that, like I think that that's really important that an actor move
Yeah,
and have that freedom to explore that in whatever ways, like there's kind of no rules with that, but I do have a thing that I do with people that kind of gets them in, and it feels like it's practical. It feels like there's a reason for it, not just like, hey, be a balloon, like um Yeah, I have a way of working that. So physicality and also like I dial into my students. Like I'm inside, like I'm like a little bit in your brain and your body. I hope that doesn't sound creepy, but like I'm in there and I'm in there
Right.
with you, And so I'm like I can see where you're missing or where you're connected or where you're allowing something to like you're stepping over something where something's affected you but you chose to like push it down like those sorts of things. So it's a little bit like, hey, let's know you a little bit more, let's open that
Right.
up a little bit like so that those two things and objectives,
Yeah.
hardcore objectives.
Right. Well,
Like and then
you
it's like, let's go the
sorry.
distance. How far do you want to
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, completely. And you just said something interesting, which, you often hear people saying on camera, oh, well, I shouldn't be moving. What is your feeling about, like actually moving on camera?
Yeah.
Like even in a close up, I mean, people sometimes think they have to be so still, and obviously you can't go out of the frame completely. But what is your experience with that, or opinions on
I would say they've spent most of the time in their head.
that?
So, um, if you think you're just gonna like sit, learn the lines, get up and do it for the audition or on the day, if you somehow got it without an audition or whatever, but that you're just gonna do it and you're gonna stay in frame and it's gonna be powerful and beautiful and all the things. And it's like you just spent way too much time in your head. Like you've got to loosen it up. You've got to explore the possibilities of it a little bit, like you got to give yourself license.
Yeah,
You've got to allow yourself that freedom. Why'd you choose to be an actor anyway? Right? Like go sit at a desk. So
exactly. Yeah.
to allow for all of that, and then what I've always seen is when I give people, license to just go, and that's usually in the objective work, and it usually involves a fair bit of physicality. It ends up being a fair bit of physicality. And then when I say now just stand there and do it,
Mm,
and their body hasn't forgotten, it's powerful, it's grounded, and the stillness would blow your mind,
right. Yeah.
right? And it's like nothing had to happen, but it's all in there. But you don't spend all the time up here. This is Idea City. This is Information Highway. This is giving you the stuff. So get it going. Get it
Yeah.
going. You gotta give yourself permission. And we're lazy, right? Most actors are like self-tape. What are my lines? Okay, how am I gonna say that?
Yeah.
And go,
Yeah. Right.
right? And and then it's like, oh, like so anybody, like that's anybody's read. There's nothing interesting about it.
Mm,
Not nothing. I mean, you're going to bring something, but
right.
how do you want to work? How do you want to show up? All my
Mm,
students, there's none of my students on here, but if they were, they'd be like, oh, there she goes. How do you want to show up? Start doing that every day.
right. Yeah. Yo, well said. Well said. And because it's something that sort of it's one of the things that kind of bothers me is that people think like they have to be so frozen and I mean if people what I would suggest is watch actors that you like, and like even if they're in a close up, they might their head, just like my head's moving now. I mean
Yeah.
they might you don't have to be so
How can you be
and let's
alive? How can you be
yeah,
alive? How can you be present? How can everything be firing and you're like this and oh my God, if I move my eyes, the camera's gonna be like, it's like no. Like of course, everyone's afraid of being too big, right? I don't want to overact. I don't want to like I'm
right.
all over the place. Like, yeah, you can't be in a self-tape and be like all over the place. Like, okay, realistically, that's not going to be the best tape, right? That's not going to be what happens on the day. Like this is where we're talking about auditioning and on the day are very different places.
Exactly.
Very
Yeah.
different places. So, but yeah, like everyone's afraid of like being too big, but you're never too big if it's grounded, if you're in it, if you're present, if it's true,
Exactly. Yeah.
then it won't be too
Yeah.
big. Look how big some performances are. It's like, Jesus, that's so big. And it's an Oscar. Why? Because it was a connected performance. It was
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
present and connected, right?
Yeah.
And unique and all those things because that's all that person, all that, all their stuff. Um,
Right.
that's the if they're not connected, then it's horrible, and we know it. We go, that's not going to work. We're
Yeah.
overacting because we're not connected, right? That's
Yeah.
it. And like, let's not feel bad about it. Let's go, yeah, yeah. I was really chewing it on that. Like I was, right?
Mhm.
Like, why are we
Mhm.
so afraid to like get it wrong? We're gonna get it wrong a lot. So
Yeah. That's another.
like,
Yeah.
let's
That's
have fun
another
with that.
good point. Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's like, is there? That's another thing. Maybe tell if I'll tell an actor sometimes. Well, if the character's point of view here is that they're furious, then maybe work deeper, go further, and 9 times out of 10 people will say, well, what if it's too much? And again, just what you said, it's only too much when you're fake. It's either you're faking it, and there's nothing wrong with exploding, but if it's real, whether that's exploding from tears or joy or anger, I mean, some of the greatest performances are that. When we think of Brando in Streetcar Named Desire, or we think of Kim Stanley. Is someone people are maybe not as familiar with because she was not in many films. Do you know Kim? She was in a film called The Goddess. Does she ring a bell for you?
No.
Oh, yeah, she died in 2006, but she was honestly one of the greatest actors on that I've ever seen. She
Oh, I
did
have to
mostly.
see. We got to
Yeah,
watch it. You got to show me.
I'll send you some of her movies because she
Okay.
was only in like 3 or 4, but every performance is like whoa.
Yeah.
And we're talking like explosive and sure, like subtlety and nuance. I love that too, but
Yeah.
it seems like today I talk to actors and they just now it's like we're at this point where it's like where some people can't even accept when people explode. It's like, oh my god! It's like everyone wants these small performances. And again, I love like small nuanced things, but I don't mean to paint people with a broad stroke. I mean, I'm just generally things I hear sometimes, and I just think you're either indicating the emotion or you're not. And if the director wants you to be, it's easier to dial back as opposed to if the director's like, hey, I need more out of you.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, I feel like in my experience with, now thousands of students, and also colleagues and whatever, but like, uh, a lot of people these days don't want to feel. They don't want to feel.
interesting.
They don't want to feel. They don't want the
And why is
hard
that? What
stuff.
what is that? What is that about? Like,
It's sign
why
of the
why do you think that?
times, and like we don't have enough time in the world to talk about why that's happening right now, but
Right, right, right.
that is happening. Like people don't want to feel. And look, for a long time it was drilled in that you had to be positive, and everything else was you know toxic, right? And then that messaging is being corrected in our multi-billion dollar self-help industry with, oh no, you have all the emotions, it's just how you manage them. And basically everyone's going to learn how to be an actor
Mm.
because
Oh,
we
that's a good
manage
point.
and manipulate our emotions. And if we can do that, and if you can be in a really happy mood and you got to walk into a scene and things aren't so great,
Right.
like that's part of your job, and we're also realizing we kind of have to do that in real life. We got to show up for people,
Yep.
not whatever, but it's not all about being positive. That's all. So I think that there's been a lot of messaging that's messed up sort of how people can manage, and political correctness, and
Yeah.
just so many things about the times we live in. So an actor's job is still to feel. It still is, as far as I can see. It still is the willingness to feel the feels and to discover it in yourself, and that's hard work. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. Do it. There's other things that you can do. You know, if you don't want
Yeah.
to do that, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that, but I think you're onto something because I've noticed that as well, and it's like, what is that about? But like you said, that's a whole other,
It's a whole
that's a
other
long,
thing. You
yeah,
take it or leave it. If you're listening to this and you're like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I love feeling. I'm like, good. Like good.
right,
I'm not saying nobody wants to feel. I'm saying people, some people, um, are really uncomfortable with feelings and
yeah,
strong feelings. And that's okay.
right,
It's just as an actor, if you think, well, you know what, maybe I just want to be a comedian, you're still going to feel there's tragedy in comedy. Like if you just want to
yeah,
have like the lighter roles, well, then you'll have to pick and choose just those. And you can do that. You get to choose. It's just, there's only so much work to go around as well. So like, don't
yeah,
limit
yeah. And if you're
yourself.
not,
Right.
and if
And
you're,
if you
and
want to
if
be an
you're not,
actor, do you want
right,
to, like, what do you want to feel? Like, do you want to, for me, I want to feel all the parts of me. Like, that's
yeah,
what I want to do, but some actors don't. And that's okay.
yeah. Yeah, it used to frustrate me more. I mean, because like yourself, I've worked with actors and I'm like, where they have actually told me, well, this is the really only kind of parts or feelings I'm comfortable with. And I used to get angry, but I kind of don't now. I'm like, okay, well then I'll help you be the best version
Yeah.
of that. I mean, I encourage you to go further.
Hmm.
I encourage everyone to go further, but um, it's always a bit of a slippery slope because some people have, I mean, I know I've probably made the mistakes sometimes of not realizing that whatever their block is because this is like some kind of trauma that I'm not qualified to work them
That's a big
through.
thing
Or
for us, right?
yeah,
That's a very big thing for us. And I've bumped up against that too. And it's like, what is the space? Right. And, all the intimacy training. Like I've heard horror stories about that going worse than if they'd never had anybody there. Like there's a lot going on right now. There's like being in a scene and saying, "Can I touch you on the shoulder?" Right?
yeah,
When you're
yeah,
in the middle
yeah,
of the thing.
right,
And it's like, okay, like I understand why we feel like now I can't just reach out and touch someone or hug someone or
right,
whatever.
right,
But that's in some places. That's more institutionalized places. You go to map actors, and I'm all for recommending them, even though you should come study with us for a bit. But you need a whole bunch of tools in your toolbox, so it's okay. But like they're
exactly.
they're dancing and feeling each other and being in each other's space, and it's like when we watch all the shows, we're watching people like close and angry and loving and like all the things, and you've got to have access to that. You got to get
Yeah,
comfortable with it.
right. Yeah, yeah, and in a way you have to. I think you also have to embrace everything, good and bad. Like yesterday I was in Hamilton. I went to Hamilton because for this I was for at Theater Aquarius, and I mean, we have a homeless problem in Toronto, but I don't know.
In
I was
Hamilton
only in a certain area
too.
downtown. Yeah, and I mean, I went. I mean, it was so cold yesterday that I went into a Tim Hortons and literally every single person in there was homeless, and I just and I don't know for sure, but by the likes of them had drug problems or alcohol issues and stuff. And I don't know, maybe as an actor, I'm sort of drawn to those people, but like nothing really sort of makes me feel oh my God, I got to get out of here. Like this is so scary. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it can get scary in certain instances. But I don't know. I think that's helped me as an actor. Where if I hadn't been an actor, I might have been, depending on how one is brought up, I might be like, oh, get me out of here. But I'm sort of like, I'm just sort of interested and comfortable in these uh, all these different people and stories
Yeah.
and I think that's the great thing about being an actor is like you can be with you could be hanging out with some high rollers rich people somewhere and then the next day be comfortable around addicts,
Yeah.
or and I don't know. I find I'm very grateful because I don't think that would be the case if I hadn't had become an
Well,
actor. I don't know
I
if
think
you
you got
ever.
to find out your why, right? Like why am I here? Why am I doing this?
Right.
Um, uh, um, guess what? I think I have a coaching call.
Oh,
I think I have a coaching call. I'm not sure if
yeah,
it
it's okay.
started
We
at
can
two,
wrap up because
but
it's been yeah, we actually are almost at an
yeah,
hour. So this was a great chat,
I
and
could
for those
talk
of you
all
who
day
watch.
about it. Like I don't want to shut it down, but I got a notification and I was like, oh shit.
No, 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 no. Yeah, totally fine. Yeah, we talked a lot. So the great thing about these videos, I know people are dropping in and out, so you can watch it anytime on. I'm not sure about my page because Kelly started this live stream, but you can watch it on Kelly's page, and I'll share it around as well. But it was a great chat, Kelly. So thanks so much.
And one last plug then. So March 2nd, seven
Yeah,
actors. And some of the things that we've been talking about are some of the things we're going to experience on that day. We're looking at probably 10 to 6, right? So we're going to have a lunch
yeah,
break. We'll take a couple breaks. Everyone's going to be able to see themselves in on camera and playback and a link to take home so they can watch or not watch themselves at home.
yeah. And the website, you can go to both of our websites. So my website is rbellissimo, BELLISSIMO rbellissimo.ca, and all the details are there, how to pay, emails, everything, social media handles. And then it's kellyfanson.com, right? Your website, Kelly?
That one is kellyfanson.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kelly Fanson, yeah. So just go to our websites and reach out if you have more questions and sign up because spots are filling and we're about a week and a half away.
And I'm also happy to take any messages here,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
DMs here or on Facebook. Reach out, like that's wherever you want to find us to ask questions, and maybe get on the phone and have a chat. That's totally what I like to do when I'm going to jump into a workshop or whatever. Is like just get a little better sense of it. So if that's you, like yeah, go ahead. We're here,
great.
and I guess we want to sort of fill this like by the end of the month, right? With a couple days to spare. So the
Yeah, the
sooner the
28th.
better.
Yeah, 28th is the deadline.
Because we want to
But,
choose like some scenes and stuff. We want to like be able to
yeah,
see who we've
exactly.
got and then go, okay, this is what we're going to need.
Right. Yeah. But, if it's March 1st and you want to sign up, just
Unacceptable.
email us and yeah. That's true. That's true. You can always ask, but we'll probably be full by then. But yeah, 28th is the deadline.
Yeah. And we're doing 7 actors. Why? Because we want to give everybody time.
Yeah,
There's just never enough time. And sure, we could, go, well, hey, do you think we could get 20 people? And like, it's like, first of all, it's hard to get that many people, especially because it's our first one. So that's one of the reasons. But we also, I think it was first and foremost, like how do we give everybody the time with what we want to do in a day?
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that'll be on average about an hour each person if we take a lunch break and another short break or something, but almost an hour.
On and
So
off.
yeah, plenty of
Yeah,
time for each person. So
total.
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it and I'm excited.
Yeah.
So this was a great, again, Kelly, great
Me
chat.
too.
And we will talk soon.
Okay. We
All right.
we
See
did
you
it.
soon,
We've done
everyone.
it. We can do another one of these now because now we know how to do it, I think.
Yeah. 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 We can test it maybe to be on the safe side next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, we should probably do a little prep. What do you think?
Yeah.
Don't just like
Now I know that it's harder than I remember. But
yeah.
anyways, okay, great. Well, I'm gonna leave, and then the live chat will close, I believe.
Okay.
So I'll press
I'll just
leave,
be
and then
sitting
you
here by myself like a weirdo. I'll just be like
can. Yeah, and then you could
the
just
end of
close
a
the
Zoom
app, and it will
call. I
end.
hate those.
Yeah. All right, Kelly. I'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks,
See ya.
Robbie.